Kellyanne Conway never had a Walkman. It was before her time.
She
Am I right, Kellyanne?
Oh, no, I had many Walkman.
Yes. So
My first cell phone was this big.
Right?
I know.
And it was in a bag, right?
It was, indeed. I'm old enough to remember that. But I'm old enough to remember a time before texting and Twitter and all that, too. So
well,
those were
remember,
great days.
it was 1953, and we've been basically we've never had peace with North Korea. The Korean War never came to a close. We had an armistice. Well, for the first time, the president made history by putting his neck out there and tweeting, hey, would Kim Jong-un, what if I come over? He said yes, and it happens. Listen to what Senator Chuck Schumer said about the historic meeting.
This was one of the worst few days in American foreign policy and American diplomatic history.
Why?
In a long time. It's reality show foreign policy. He wants that photo op. He wants that little hit. And if anyone thinks this doesn't hurt America in the short term, in the long run, they're sadly mistaken.
Kellyanne, worst weekend ever.
Well, it wasn't. Of course, President Obama was handed the Nobel Peace Prize, but President Trump's on his way to actually earning one. And that's because he has an obligation to at least meet with leaders and speak to other countries and try to bring peace where he can, and really to reduce the nuclear capabilities while sanctions continue. He's made very clear to Chairman Kim himself, sanctions will continue on your country. But look at what could happen, the economic development, the prosperity for your own people, if you would simply work with us to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. He's been very clear and very transparent and very public with the press right there every single time to see what's happening in his conversations with Chairman Kim. And he also says if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. He walked away from what he thought was a bad deal, as great negotiating businessmen do, and politicians in Washington don't really understand still. He walked away from that deal. People were shocked. It's like, how can you walk away empty-handed? He walked away with the full deck because he's never in a rush. This man is never in a rush to make a bad deal, believe me. Chuck Schumer, I prefer Chuck Schumer from last week when he was one of the 33 Democrats in the Senate to vote for the humanitarian aid package that the president signed yesterday in the Oval Office, $4.6 billion in humanitarian aid for something that Chuck Schumer and his sidekick Nancy Pelosi 5 short months earlier said was a manufacturer crisis. I have a whole list here of anchors and people on TV and Democrats who said it was a manufacturer crisis, who now dropped the word manufactured and are calling what they see at the border a crisis. Chuck Schumer wants to talk about photo ops. I saw one yesterday, and it's called Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez going down to one of these facilities and making this outrageous claim that a woman's drinking from a toilet, which everybody who has control over that facility or control for the Border Patrol has said that's not true. They've not heard of this. And then when she was challenged by one of the few reporters who actually ever challenges her facts, she put the window up. Don't let the air condition out. She put the window up. And people need to challenge this because she's one of 95 people, Democrats, who voted against the aid package. You either want the humanitarian aid, the $4.6 billion, to go and help, or you want the photo op. So if Chuck Schumer is going to use those words, I'm going to turn it right back around on the 95 Democrats in the House who couldn't see their way for $4.6 billion in humanitarian aid that this president signed yesterday. Great bipartisan effort.
Let's talk about Iran, too, because the president was sat down in that exclusive interview with Tucker Carlson, and he had this to say about Iran, gave them a stern, tough warning. Listen.
No message to Iran. They know what they're doing. They know what they're playing with, and I think they're playing with fire. So no message to Iran whatsoever.
So he says no message, but there is a message there. He says they're playing with fire. What does he mean by that?
Well, the message, the broader message, though, that the president hardly needs to append this week is that he's taken us out of the terrible Iran nuclear deal. He has sanctions on Iran. Where's Iran's economy right now? What's happening with them? And so the message is very clear from this president, and as compared to the last administration, it could not be more stark. He doesn't need to add to that message. He's watching Iran. He also told your colleague Tucker Carlson, and has even told Chuck Todd the week before and others, which is that people thought, he'd go to war with Iran, he's going to have a disproportionate response, and he got credit from some unlikely corners for not, in fact, attacking Iran the way many said that he would. He wanted that to be a proportionate response. And so, again, I think one thing that's often lost about this president is how deliberative and patient he is. how he takes the information, the inputs from his professionals, and he weighs the consequences, and then he makes a decision. He's been incredibly patient and non-impulsive, really flying in the face of many people's irrational predictions about his leadership qualities. And Iran is the latest example of that.
Do you have any hope? Have you heard anything, Kellyanne, about with Lindsey Graham's hour conversation with Nancy Pelosi about some easy asylum fixes? Has that gotten back to the Oval Office? The president was overseas at the time. Have you heard anything promising there?
The president is fully read into those conversations. And let me just tell you, the fact that the conversation took place is what's important. So an hour on the phone with Senator Graham and Speaker Pelosi. The week before, an hour on the phone between our Vice President Mike Pence and Speaker Pelosi. And then you got the humanitarian aid package. 3 weeks before that, Vice President Mike Pence in the lead at the negotiation table with Mexico to get that done, along with our Secretary of State and DHS and White House counsel. That's how this should happen. The people who actually have these positions in our government. So you saw the Vice President, who wants no credit ever, getting Mexico to the table and helping instead of getting the tariffs, and then in quick succession talking to Pelosi, now Graham talking to Pelosi. We need Congress to step in, fix the asylum laws, TVPRA, Flores. It's Congress's job. I think yesterday, Brian, is a great step forward. If they've come and put that bipartisan humanitarian aid package on the president's desk, they're breaking ranks with other Democrats who are saying, no win, abolish ICE, get rid of the CPP, they're terrorists, don't give any aid. I think fixing the asylum is the next big step, and we're ready. The president is ready. They can come over today and do that.
Right, and very lastly, we're almost out of time, Kellyanne, but very quickly, your DHS Secretary, Kevin McAleenan, in El Salvador today. Is the administration prepared, or should we expect anything to come in terms of trying to stop the root cause of that northern triangle of Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, of these overwhelming numbers coming? Can we expect some movement, some sort of development there?
That is clearly one of the ongoing goals. And look at what happened when the president, the vice president, Secretary Pompeo met with the Mexicans. They've been terrific. They've done more than some of the Democrats. And this president got the Mexicans to come to an agreement about their northern border, about their southern border. That helps us at our southern border. So if we can also help those Northern Triangle countries and help the people of those Northern Triangle countries understand what a treacherous, perilous journey this is, there is no guarantee at the end of it. You're putting these children at risk, these women at risk. I've challenged Democrats, and nobody's able to tell me. If you can tell me what happens to every man, woman, and child who comes over on that journey and into the interior of this country, are they all safe? Are they all alive? Are they not trafficked? So this is great that our DHS acting secretary is there, and we're going to continue to talk to these countries. We want people, the president said yesterday in the Oval, come here legally, like the 33 million people who have come. We want to help you come here legally.
Gotcha. Kellyanne Conway, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.